So, Mayor, when Trump returns to office, he will actually have a lot of power with the Republican-controlled Senate and House. He suggested at times using the National Guard to target the enemy within, and key members of his last administration called him a fascist. But you've defended him.
I want to thank Mayor Adams, because Mayor Adams has been treated pretty badly. You know, when he said that this whole thing with the migrants coming into New York, this is just not sustainable. You know, we can't do it. We're trying to run a city. It's not good. He said it very nicely. I said, well, he's going to be indicted by these lunatics for saying that. A year later, he got indicted.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Micca, and we're back for another Red Cup Talks, because you know once we have the Red Cup, we're about to spill some truth. And today I wanted to come on and talk about our favorite Golden Girls, The View. They had Eric Adams, yes, the mayor of New York City. They had him on The View today, right? And they talked about a lot of things with him, including RFK and Donald Trump. You know they have Trump derangement syndrome, okay? But I want you to see them talking about RFK first, and then we'll go into Eric Adams. Here we go.
So Trump's latest cabinet nominee is RFK Jr. for, wait for it, the head of Health and Human Services. He's a longtime vaccine skeptic and conspiracy theorist who has linked antidepressants to school shootings. He wants to get rid of fluoride in the water, cavities, and thinks everybody should drink unpasteurized milk. You get salmonella, and you get salmonella, and you get salmonella.
Okay, so you guys just saw that. Joy has Trump derangement syndrome, and anything attached to Trump, she is just going to shoot it down. So go figure. But now I want you to see Joy and the rest of the crew talk to Eric Adams about RFK. Here we go.
We have a real problem with our food in our country. And we need to watch what we're feeding our children. And
what is the major problem, do you think?
Too much hormones. You know, many people know my, you know, I almost lost my sight with diabetes. The doctor told me I would be blind in a year. I was going to lose my fingers and toes. And it was my food. It wasn't my DNA. It was my dinner.
But JFK Jr. RFK Jr. ate some pork, and now he has a brain worm. Is he the person that should be in charge of that?
Yeah, well, let's
food?
Right. And let's understand this also. In all of these agencies, there are thousands of employees and experts that understand these topics, and there are rules, there are regulations.
Mayor, a lot of them want to resign. When they see some of the people that are going to be on top, I think there's going to be a mass exodus of people who have the institutional knowledge and the institutional memory and DOD at HHS. Who wants to work under a cook?
And let me respond to that. If we love our country, then no one individual should take us away from our mission.
Yes.
If you dedicated your life to a particular place, I dedicated my life to law enforcement. So if a new commissioner came in that I disagreed with, I was not going to say, I'm going to resign. Let's love the country. Let's love our cities. Let's get away from the rhetoric of the professionalism that we know. Those are experts in this. They're going to look at his proposal, do a real analysis, and make these decisions. It happens every day.
All right, so you guys just saw that. I like how Eric Adams stood up to the Golden Girls and said, hey, I don't agree with this, but I do agree with this, right? And he was talking about the point of the foods and what's in the foods and how many additives and hormones are in the foods that are making us adults and our children sick, right? All Americans. So I liked what he talked about there. But, you know, the Golden Girls just have to push back, and they can never just totally agree because they don't like Donald Trump or anybody that associates with Donald Trump. It's the Trump derangement syndrome. However, RFK talked about COVID and the COVID vaccine. And then he talked about ivermectin, to the point Joe Rogan decided to take it. And then Joe Rogan told Chris Cuomo. Watch what happened, not only with Joe Rogan, but Chris Cuomo. Here we go.
They'll say that Bobby Kennedy is spreading misinformation, where everything he said, you can verify. Everything he said is true, but there's no money in agreeing with him. The amount of money that these news organizations, supposed news organizations, get from being on the side of the pharmaceutical companies and being in their good graces is millions and millions of dollars in advertising revenue. And they have a very specific mandate.
Tucker is 10 times what CNN is, gets, and Rogan's audience is potentially 10 times what Tucker was getting. So I think the podcasts have the capacity this election for reaching people and allowing, sort of dissident and insurgent candidates like myself to end run the corporate media monolith and to reach large numbers of Americans without going onto the networks.
I'll tell you something else that's going to get you a lot of hits. I am taking a what do they call it? Like a regular dose, whatever. They're trying to build up of ivermectin. Ivermectin was a boogeyman early on in COVID.
You couldn't talk about it.
That was wrong. We were given bad information about ivermectin. The real question is why?
All right, so you guys just saw that. You had Joe Rogan talking about, big pharma and that RFK understands what he's talking about and that, he was taking ivermectin. All right. And then you had, RFK being very appreciative that Joe Rogan spoke on his big platform about him and what he knows about ivermectin and COVID. And then you had Chris Cuomo, who was on CNN, the Trump deranged people over there. But he had to come back and this is to his credit. He came back and corrected that, he was wrong and that everybody over there at CNN is wrong. Go figure. But I digress. So the interview continued with Mayor Eric Adams, and they asked Eric Adams about defending Trump. Watch what he says.
Key members of his last administration called him a fascist, but you've defended him. Can you explain? In
this country, we no longer want to engage in conversation. They were even calling him Hitler. That's an insult.
That was only his vice president.
That was an insult. That was an insult to the millions of Jews and others who died. We know what Hitler did. And what I said to our country, when I'm on the streets talking to my young people who are protesting on college campuses, wearing Hamas signs and calling for the destructions of groups, I said, we have to bring down this rhetoric. We have to start engaging in conversation.
But do you think Trump should have brought down the rhetoric? Because
everybody should.
Well, let's start at the top then, because maybe it trickles down.
Everybody should. Everybody should.
All right, so you guys just saw that. And I, again, have to give it to Mayor Eric Adams. He defended himself well against their claims of him defending Trump. I don't think Eric Adams, totally agrees with Donald Trump, but I think Eric Adams sees a similarity in how the Democratic Party and the mainstream media regime has treated, people that go against what they're saying. All right. And to be frank, I understand because Donald Trump has already said that he knew that the establishment was going to come after Eric Adams once he made all those claims about immigrants. If you don't know, New York had a big red wave and they could not understand it. When I say them, I mean Democrats. But here's the view on it. Here we go.
The vice president won New York, but by 12 points as opposed to Joe Biden's 23-point margin. That was a significant move to the right in New York State. What do you attribute and you actually stated that you think you said the far left agenda is backfiring. What do you attribute the decline in support among Democrats in New York to, and what are Democrats getting wrong?
And what you saw in this city, in this election, where you saw a shift and the state becoming redder, is because we stopped talking about working class people issues. When mom and pops are afraid, I can't pay my college tuition, the rent is too damn high, healthcare is too expensive. We stopped talking to everyday New Yorkers and Americans. When I'm in the street talking to them, they're not asking me, Eric, tell me about fascism. They're talking about finance. They're not talking about Hitler. They're talking about housing. We need to talk to everyday working class people. And we stopped doing that. And those are the issues that they are afraid of. They're afraid of the future of their children.
All right, so you guys just saw that. And it's so funny. Eric Adams was so on point. He said when people stop him in the street, they're not talking about fascism. They're not talking about Hitler. They're talking about the rent is too damn high. And I felt that when he said that. That is the reason why everything moved to the right, because the left is too busy talking about everything but the issues. Okay. The issues are we need a better economy. People need to be able to work. We need more jobs. We need more of those things that keep the middle class afloat. And in this point, we need to get rid of the illegal immigration that's flooding our borders and flooding our cities like New York. As he said, it's costing him billions. So again, here's Eric Adams with great points. So the last point I want to get into is immigration. Eric Adams talks to our favorite Golden Girls about immigration. Here we go.
Trump is vowing to do mass deportations. There's 500,000 undocumented immigrants living in New York City. Some have lived here for decades. There's Dream Act kids, dreamers living in New York City. Again, some have lived here for decades. What's your message right now for the people in New York living in fear?
We have a broken immigration system. I don't believe in mass deportation, but I don't believe in mass saturation. 220,000 migrants and asylum seekers came to the city, cost us $6.4 billion. I'm not allowed to let them work. I'm not allowed to have them be participating in the tax base of this city. We can't deport those who commit crimes in our city. We are not allowed to connect with ICE. This is a failed system. We need to fix it. And if we don't fix it, we're seeing what's happening in Chicago, what's happening in Houston, what's happening in Denver. This is wrong for cities to pick up this course. They only gave me $200 million out of $6.4 billion that it should have gone to everyday issues in our city.
All right, so you guys just saw that. So I have to give it to Eric Adams. He was great in this interview, okay? I am by no means a fan of Eric Adams, but he did a phenomenal job at explaining himself and expounding on certain points. And again, he does not agree with Donald Trump on everything, and he doesn't have to. But he is at least expressing that everything doesn't have to be nuclear. Everything doesn't have to be Hitler, World War II. And you can tone down the rhetoric and come to a compromise, come to solutions. And I think that's where Eric Adams is. Now, it took him, to get indicted. But at the end of the day, he had a come to Jesus moment. And I'm here for it. But, hey, I could be wrong. So get down in the comments and let me know, hey, the Golden Girls, they're on it. They know what they're talking about, right on. Or if you're like me and think that they have Trump derangement syndrome really bad, like to the point where they can't even admit when something actually works. Like, just admit it works. Just admit that people know what they're talking about. Do a little research, especially Sonny. Like, it's always nuclear. But get down in the comments. Let me know. Like, comment, and subscribe. You can support your girl through Cash Apps, $ officially Micca, MICCA. That's how it's spelled. $ officially Micca at Cash App. And you can also support me down in the comments with a super thanks. Thank you for watching. It's your girl Micca, and I'm out. Peace.